Hello, this is Dr. Lori. Welcome to this discussion on Public Health 3.0. We often hear back from our graduates from the MPH program at School of Public Health, and one of the things that we've started hearing a lot recently is that they have been engaged in a lot of activities related to this thing called Public Health 3.0. And what we'd like to do is at least give you a working knowledge of what that is so that when you go out into the workforce, it's not a brand new idea. I think it's also really helpful in terms of framing the kinds of things that you'll be doing in public health so that you'll be ready to hit the ground running. So, Public Health 3.0 really is a mindset in terms of what public health does, and it includes 5 different areas. It includes the chief health strategist, which is kind of like a champion, a local person who really understands a lot of the issues and maybe understands who the players are that can be involved with the issues that the public faces. Number 2 is the community stakeholders. These are organizations, sometimes individuals, often people who have knowledge and have an interest in the health of the population on the population level. Number 3 is the whole notion that accreditation criteria really should be aligned with these new ideas. And so, as we're accrediting public health agencies to have the criteria reflect exactly what we're trying to achieve in Public Health 3.0. The 4th piece, and this is where I generally sort of focus, is about the data. And the thing that, and we'll come back and expand on this, but data is key to really knowing what it is that needs to be done and whether what we're doing is effective. And so we need data both before we start trying to make some kind of an intervention and as we go along to help us really understand if what we're doing is being effective. And then the 5th piece, it has to do with funding. And so having reliable funding to be able to do all of the activities that public health needs to do. So if we think about the kinds of things that are involved with Public Health 3.0, the big word that really always tends to come to the surface is collaboration. And when we're collaborating, then we can do a lot more collectively than if individual agencies and public health and all of these separate people are doing things just one at a time by themselves. And so let's think a little bit about where we've come. This whole notion of Public Health 3.0 really built on a strong foundation of Public Health 1.0 and Public Health 2.0. And so those particular timeframes were as part of the history of public health. Public Health 1.0 really is the period of time from the late 19th century all the way through the middle to the later part of the 20th century. And back at that time, we didn't have a really solid notion of disease. We didn't understand the process or the prevention. And so there were just leaps and bounds that happened during this time in terms of a lot of it had to do with infectious disease control, specifically through food and water safety, sanitation, and then developing new treatments that could help treat these infectious diseases and even prevent them, such as vaccines. And so Public Health 1.0 was a real leap in the right direction in terms of thinking about the health of the population on a population level. Public Health 2.0 then really came about after the Institute of Medicine's report on the future of public health in 1988. And so that was kind of like a turning point where we're saying, okay, public health is trying to capture and support people who are falling through the gaps, but we don't have enough funding in order to be able to do this. And so what they did is they came up, and let me see if I can pull this up really quickly. They came up with the 10 essential public health services, and you can see they said, okay, this is what public health does. And so When I'm thinking about data, I'm thinking in this top right corner where it says monitor health, diagnose and investigate, and then also in the very center, research. Um, so we're not only like 1 and 2 here, monitoring the health status to identify and solve problems, diagnose and investigate those problems. That is very dependent on the data. And number 10, research for new insights. So we need to have the data and the information to support the decision making that goes along with what's happening during that public health 2.0 period. So those were two eras that really have springboarded into this new time frame called Public Health 3.0. And all of this right here, all of this is Public Health 3.0, is taking that momentum and then moving it in the direction where we have an organized effort to really involve a variety of other people in that effort to coordinate them. Not only the stakeholders, but the accreditation criteria are aligned with this, the funding is there, the data is there to support the effort, and then we have this champion person to really help on a community level to understand what's going on and what's needed the very most. So let's talk a little bit more about the data piece. There are three big areas, and so I'll kind of like put them here, where we see the opportunity to really do a better job. The first one is gaps. And first of all, there's a gap because we have a serious time lag between when the data is collected and cleaned and then made available for people to be able to look at. So there's the lag, but then there's also a lot of data that's out there that may be fairly current, but we have this issue with sharing data. So we have both a lag and an issue with sharing. And sometimes the issue with sharing is really a misunderstanding about the HIPAA requirements associated with confidentiality. And so we need to balance all of that, but then we also need to use it in the appropriate way so that it is shared anonymously, but on a granular enough level so that it's helpful for making decisions about a community. The second issue is we are really starting to look at new kinds of data. A lot of the new information that we need really has to do with the upstream challenges, the social impact, things like income, education, housing, even violence and transportation really are contributing to the public's health, and so we need to understand those. And then also other data might help us with things like economics. What's the impact of the kinds of things that we're doing? So that can be an important piece of what we're trying to achieve in this section on data. And then the third piece is support. There are not a lot of people who know how to bring data together so that the data sharing can happen in a way that's useful, and especially once a person has the data, there needs to be support in the analysis. So here we have support for sharing, support for analysis, and this could be an area where the new generation of public health trained professionals really has some knowledge in being able to do these kinds of things, specifically the basic analysis. One of our professors at School of Public Health often says at our faculty meetings, if you are the public health professional that shows up at an institution, they just assume that you know how to do everything. They say, oh, we need some data analyzed. New person can do that. They must know how to do all of the things that we need. So this is a bit of an overview of Public Health 3.0. I hope you get interested and learn more about that, so that you can be very ready to contribute to your area that you eventually find as your field of interest. Thank you for joining me.